Hey, what's up? Alex here. In this video, we are going to look at which is the best robot vacuum in 2021. To do that, I decided to get the 3 most expensive models that are locally distributed in Singapore. I'm going to compare and see how good they are and also check out what are some of the new innovation features added this year. I have the Ecovacs Deebot T9, Samsung JetBot and Roborock S7. They are put to use for at least 3 months. I even passed each of them to my neighbor to use for 3 weeks because she has long hair and 2 kids in the house. Frankly speaking, I myself is very curious to see how this is going to turn out. You might be wondering why I didn't include the most expensive robot vacuum out there right now, the iRobot Roomba S9 Plus, which is currently priced at almost 3000 SGD. Reason is, it didn't even meet one of my basic requirements of a robot vacuum, which is using laser navigation. It is still using a front-facing camera, and they are also famous for their loud vacuum sound. Despite being the pioneer and coming out with the first auto empty station, it is really hard for me to recommend it, not to mention the price is almost these 3 robot vacuums add together. I think this is a very good classic example of the most expensive doesn't mean it's the best. 一分钱不值一分货. For Samsung, they have a higher end model, the JetBot AI, but over here in Singapore, we only have the JetBot. For Ecovacs, in China, they already have T9 AI VI and their latest X1. That one is crazy. Auto empty and auto mop cleaning combined into one. But right now, we only have the standard T9. As for Roborock, of course in China, they have their T7S Plus version. While over here it is just the S7 with their auto empty station coming in only recently. Full disclaimer first, all these 3 robots are sent over to me free. That also means that I actually have no reason to be biased towards any one of them. I think it's important to point out that I have the freedom to test out my way and say anything I want. Let's talk about the auto empty station first, since it is a new tech that was just added in this year. And to me, this is a game changer. The whole purpose of buying a robot vacuum is so that you don't need to spend time and effort to vacuum the floor yourselves. The robot will do it for you. But every few days, you will still have to manually clean and wash the dustbin inside. Depending on the size of the bin and area to clean, it is about twice per week. And I would say it's not the most enjoyable task to do, cleaning the bin, washing and drying it. So the idea of an auto empty station is they will automatically suck out all the dirt from the bin to basically a much bigger bin. So from doing this 2 times per week, now on average, you will just need to do this once every 1 to 2 months time. For Ecovacs, the suction will happen at the 2 openings at the bottom going to the empty station and collected using the dust bag. Size is 2.5 liters, no ventilation holes, no filters, very simple, round, compact design. For Samsung, it applies a similar concept, but it only makes use of one single bigger opening to go to the empty station. Similarly, using a dust bag, size is also 2.5 liters, but you can see there are ventilation holes behind and a replaceable filter. Design is much taller with a more squarish look. For Roborock, it's a little different, no openings at the bottom because they are going to suck out directly from the main brush opening to reach the bin inside. It will then move to their filtration system first, so you will have 2 filters to clean here and ventilation holes on top. Then the trash will all be collected beside. Over here, you have a choice of whether to use a 3-liter dust bag or save cost to just keep it like a bigger bin. But of course, that is another additional component to clean. The performance result of all 3 auto empty stations are very good, able to suck out almost everything from the bin inside. For me, the auto empty station is a must-have and going with the dust bag because I really don't like all the dust flying around when you try to clean the bins. To me, the most important aspect of a robot vacuum is that they must be smart, and so the navigation technology used plays a big part in that. All 3 of these robots are using laser technology or LiDAR, which I feel is the best currently. So does this mean that all 3 of them are going to behave the same way? Not quite, because within lasers there are different types. Software algorithms used are different, and how the vacuum is engineered to handle obstacles matter as well. In this case, Ecovacs is using DTOF while Roborock and Samsung are using LDS. In my house, when I just want the robot to go clean the kitchen, it has to go past my dining table and chairs, which are a lot of obstacles. For Samsung and Roborock seems to recognize and learn the obstacles at this spot and choose to go around it after a couple of attempts. But for Ecovacs every time, the T9 is trying very hard to go past, wasting quite some time here. If you pay attention to the paths the robot took during the cleaning process, The Ecovacs Deebot seems to struggle a bit in this aspect. You can see the paths are quite messy in some parts. For Samsung and Roborock, the lines look more systematic, with Roborock slightly better in my opinion. But all three robots did cover all the spots that they are supposed to clean. Next, I want to do a test on their object detection capability. I'm going to put a figurine, a slipper, a movable floor mat, and lastly a charging phone cable dangling down. For Ecovacs, it is clear that it managed to detect all of this except the floor mat. It just pushes it to the side. For the slipper and cable, it's quite impressive as you can see that it managed to go around them, showing no signs of forcing its way through. The T9 did come with a 3D True Detect feature which really shines in this test. For Samsung, it managed to detect the figurine not touching it at all, managed to detect the slipper as well but still pushing it around. Couldn't detect the cables, but most importantly, it didn't pull out the cable or get itself entangled. Lastly, couldn't detect the floor mat and push it out. For Roborock, it detects the figurine but still touches it many times during the cleaning. Couldn't detect the slipper and push it out. Problems come at the cable and floor mat part. It pulls off the cable and gets entangled with it due to the side brush. At the floor mat, although it didn't get stuck, but it's having more difficulty handling it. Initially, I'm thinking whether to even test this out because realistically, you shouldn't be using a robot vacuum to clean up a dirty mess. And also the test won't be 100% fair because the placement of all the dirt and trash matter. But just out of curiosity, I'll put the same amount of hair, powder and chips for these robots to pick up and try to distribute them evenly in the middle and at the sides. Then just visually compare the result. For Ecovacs T9, it managed to pick up all the powder and hair, kicked away some of the chips mainly due to the dual side brush. For Samsung, it managed to pick up everything except for a couple of chips. Their smart default suction power probably helps here. Lastly, for Roborock, about the same result except some noticeable leftover along the edges. But overall, I would say the vacuum performance of these three robots are pretty similar. No issue with the standard dust and hair in your everyday cleaning I experienced over the past 3 months. Some of you might be concerned with the noise level of these robot vacuums, so I will turn on the mic and let you hear the difference. This is going to be an interesting comparison because all three of them are using a different type of brush. Ecovacs T9 is still using the traditional Bristol brush. This is commonly seen in most of the robot vacuums. Samsung JetBot is using the soft roller brush, something like what Dyson used for their vacuum. Roborock S7 is using a rubber brush. This is the same as what the Roomba iRobot is using. As mentioned in the beginning of the video, I passed each of them to my neighbor for 3 weeks and this is the outcome. All still have entangled hair, but I would say not so bad. But if we're going to stress test this by putting a whole bunch of hair at one spot for the robots to clean, now we see all the hair entangled, which is kinda expected. What's more important is how easy it is to remove them because that can be a painful process. For the Ecovacs T9, you can see lots of hair being entangled on the main brush, but they do make it pretty easy to remove them. Once you pull out like the cover on both sides, you can then remove the hair coiled around the brush easily. For Samsung JetBot, you don't see a lot of hair on the brush area because it pushes the hair to the sides and in the middle. The painful part is you cannot detach any of these components, so removing hair is difficult. For Roborock S7, you can remove the hair coiled in the middle easily by dragging them out. For the two sides, however, only one of them can be removed, so that part is easy. The other side can't, so cleaning that part is difficult. I mentioned before 2 main problems using the mopping function with these kind of robot vacuums. First is the effort required. To do mopping, you have to first fill up the water tank, wrap the cloth, place the cloth onto the mopping unit, attach the unit to the robot itself. Once mopping is done, take out the mopping unit, remove the cloth, clean the cloth and put it to dry. Second problem is the idea of using the size of a handkerchief cloth and drag it around the house. It's not ideal. But it's not too bad if you are doing mopping every day as your house is constantly in a pretty clean state. The Samsung JetBot kind of recognized these problems, didn't have a good solution, so might as well don't put any mopping to this robot entirely. So I will not talk about them for this section. The Roborock S7 didn't really manage to address any of this. The Ecovacs T9 reduces that effort by giving you a choice to go with disposable mopping pads. So you can use and throw after every use. But of course, this is an additional ongoing cost. Ecovacs app also has a cleaning cloth reminder feature, so technically it makes it easier if you want to clean the cloth after every certain time interval. But if these two problems doesn't matter to you at all, then next is to look at the cleaning performance. Both Roborock and Ecovacs made significant improvement to that which differentiates themselves from those budget and mid-range robot vacuums. For Ecovacs, the water tank and mopping plate is one unit together. To simulate the scrubbing action, their way is to make the entire mopping plate move front and back in a super fast manner. Ecovacs claim it is doing 480 times per minute. For Roborock, water tank and mopping plate are separate. To simulate the scrubbing action, they go with a sonic vibration technology. This part of the mopping plate will move around, creating that vibrating effect. Roborock claims it is doing 3000 times per minute. So let's do some actual simple tests and see the mopping performance results. I'm going to leave some Milo stains on the floor for a couple of hours. From what I see, both mopping performs very well if you consider the standard of a robot. No visible stains left over, but the floor still do feel a little sticky after that, with the Roborock less so than Ecovacs. For one of my tests where I left the stains longer, you can see both robots having difficulty cleaning even when I switch to the higher setting. One huge differentiator of the Roborock S7 I like to mention is the ability to lift up the mop when it detects carpet. This means that you can mop hard floors and vacuum carpets in a single cleaning session. There is maximum height for the lifting, so this won't work for high power carpets. But if your house has some low power carpets, then this is going to be super useful. Lastly, I want to mention these robots are designed for vacuum first, mopping second. There are already robots in the market out there that focus more on mopping. We will look at those in a separate video next time. After looking at all the main key important features, now let's see what other special features these robot vacuums offer. For Ecovacs T9, they have included this new air freshener feature, but note that you can only choose either air freshener or mopping. It cannot do both together. The packaging only comes with one of these capsules that can last you for about a month. The smell is not super strong, but you can definitely smell it if you are physically in the same room as the robot when it is cleaning. The T9 also have this 3D map feature in the app where you can place some preset furniture objects to the map to make it look like your own house. But personally, I feel that it's a little gimmick. I don't see real usage for it. For the Samsung JetBot, they have a repeat feature where it will just keep on cleaning until the battery runs out. That is good if you just want to maximize the battery life and let it just do its work. Another feature which I really appreciate is during the initial setup. It has a setting to just quickly scan the whole house without doing the actual cleaning, and within a couple of minutes it is done. It's very good because for sure you will have some no-go zones that you want to set. So in this way you don't need to prep the area and sit through the entire cleaning session just to configure the map. For the Roborock S7, I really like the child lock feature, or rather a pet lock for my case. I can do without the physical buttons on the robot since I only use either voice or app to trigger. It also supports more than one map, which the other two couldn't. It is specifically for houses with multi-level up to 4 levels, so the robot is able to automatically detect which level it is at. To conclude, I'm going to list out the main pros and cons for each of these robots. I decided not to go with a score because I realized what's more important and what's less important for everyone is very different. So I let you decide the weightage yourself. For Ecovacs Deebot T9, the pros are good object detection on cables. You have option to use disposable or washable mopping pads. The air freshener feature is nice to have, especially if you're not using mopping at all. Cons are the use of the old traditional bristle brush. The TOF navigation is not as smart and not ideal for mopping houses with lots of carpet. For Samsung JetBot Plus, the pros are good material build quality, good cleaning performance for ages, and it is part of the big Samsung smart home ecosystem. Cons are no mopping, which can be a deal breaker for some, lack of customizable cleaning options in the app, and I got feedback that the app user experience is not very good for iPhone users. For Roborock S7 Plus, the pros are the map supports multi-level, intelligent mop lifting, and an option to use dust bag or washing the auto empty dock. Cons are object detection has lots of room for improvement, error reporting notification is not effective, cleaning performance not as good, especially for ages. If you ask me which is the best robot vacuums among these three, I will give it to the Roborock S7 Plus. Able to automatically lift up the mop is a huge differentiator. Good app features, good user experience, and overall the best all-rounder. But if you are asking me which to buy, I would say the Ecovacs Deebot T9. You're getting one of the best robot vacuums with premium features at a much cheaper price. Although it has some problems, but don't forget that we are like comparing the best among the best over here. The problems are not very serious per se, and I feel that it's the most value for money among these three. But in terms of what I am eventually going to use for myself, I'm actually going to pick the Samsung JetBot Plus. I really like the cleaning performance, and of course, since I am a SmartThings user, I like the native integration. It's fine without mopping because I have plans to get a dedicated mopping robot with auto cleaning instead. Can be the Roborock G10, Nawal J2, or maybe something new from the other brands next year. In my channel, these three brands are generally what I have recommended in my videos before, so you won't go very wrong choosing any of these three. Alright, that's all for this video. Let me know in the comments below which do you fancy most, and also let me know what other product comparisons you'd like to see. If you find this video useful, don't forget to thumbs and sub and share with your friends that are looking to buy a robot vacuum. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!